Ole Miss got their guy, and Lane Kiffin is absolutely primed to make a run over the next 3 weeks. Can he do it?
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a former 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. On today's show, we talk about the next 3 weeks and how they will shape the entire narrative around the 2026 recruiting class. With names like Deuce Geralds, Jase Mathews, NASCAR McCoy, and Cortez Redding in play, this stretch could be the difference between a good class and a great one. But first, we kick things off with a major commitment weekend. Craig Tutt has chosen Ole Miss, giving Lane Kiffin serious momentum heading into the biggest recruiting period of the year. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make this show what it is. Do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, hit comment on this video. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps every video on this channel free. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Really interesting stuff, and I'm kind of fired up about what happened because Craig Tutt committed to Ole Miss over the weekend. The player out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, committed to the Rebels over the Auburn Tigers and the Tennessee Volunteers. He's a 6 foot, 180-pound safety, but more importantly, just like Jet Goldsberry, he is kind of a super athlete. I talked about how Oakland High School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee will go as far as Craig Tutt will take them. He's the best quarterback on the team, the best running back, the best wide receiver, the best tight end, the best linebacker, the best cornerback, the best safety, because he is the best athlete on the field. He has never stepped on a high school field, in my opinion, to where he was the less talented player. Ole Miss is getting somebody that has the potential to develop extremely early. Until he does get developed, he is going to be an absolute star on special teams. He is somebody that is in a very good position for Ole Miss, and this is really the most important period of the year for Ole Miss in high school recruiting. And we'll talk about what's coming down the line, but the next 3 weeks of high school recruiting is going to shape the entire narrative for Lane Kiffin and high school recruiting for him. Craig Tutt was a 4-star, nearly a top 100 player on Rivals. That is Rivals and On3. They're all kind of together now. Ranked 4 stars by 247, a 3-star by ESPN. Like I've said in many of these videos, when there are anomalies in the rankings, it could be opinion differences. It could also be something as little as he went to Adidas camps as opposed to Under Armour camps. He went to Nike camps as opposed to Adidas camps. Stuff like that matters in a recruiting ranking that is so subjective, but they do think very highly of this guy. And whenever you look at his film, you can see why. He is the best athlete on the field. Doesn't matter who they're playing against. I have never seen anybody out athletic Craig Tutt. He is somebody that Tennessee wanted. And he is from an orange area. I talked about on Friday. He is going to be a battle all the way up into December and beyond because Murfreesboro, Tennessee is a very orange city. And more so than Nashville, which has a little bit of crimson that dips into that fan base as well. Murfreesboro, though, is a very orange place. Very Tennessee Vols. And if Tennessee remains interested, Tennessee is going to press him all the way up until signing day. So him committing to Ole Miss, it's not over. I talk all the time. The important thing in recruiting is not necessarily landing the kid. It's finishing in the top 2. Because after you sign with a university, you have 9 opportunities to transfer away. You want to be on that list just in case you don't get him to start with. That is my opinion on high school recruiting. High school recruiting is still very, very important. And in this realm, you need to talk about it. But the difference in the way it used to be and the way it is now is the entry point is the commitment. And Craig Tutt committed to Ole Miss. He is somebody that can line up and do exactly what you want him to do. I see him at the safety position. He is somebody that turns into potentially another Trey Washington on the back end of the defense, calling the signals, going sideline to sideline. That is where I see him. He is being recruited as a safety. Jet Goldsberry is being recruited as a safety. If you go back last year, they got Keon Young, Cortez Thomas, and Ladarian Clardy at the safety position. They want options on that end of the field, and there are different types of players. I mentioned that Ladarian Clardy and Craig Tutt favor each other with the way they play the game. They're the best athletes that have stepped on the field together in one place at Ole Miss. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to transfer over to starting or fitting in with a defense, because it's not always the best players that play on a defense. It's oftentimes the right players. Craig Tutt has the advantage of all of the athletic gifts going into this fall. That is why you should not sleep on this player. He can do all of the stuff you want him to do. He's an unbelievable athlete. He is somebody that when he walks on campus at Ole Miss, he will expect playing time the first year. He's going to look on and say, okay, they're graduating Sage Ryan and Wynette Williams and those guys at safety. I think I can ease on in there. I'm just as good as Keon Young or Cortez Thomas or Ladarian Clardy or Jet Goldsberry. I think there's a chance that I have to go start as a true freshman. And I think Craig Tutt literally believes he can play that. And Lane Kiffin has shown if you are good enough, they will play you. It isn't one of those things to where seniors always go. If you are absolutely good enough, you're going to be on the field, but they will not tolerate busts. They will not tolerate mistakes. You have to study and be available at an extremely high level. That's the reason freshmen can struggle at times. And whenever you get the opportunity, you take it. The difference in this, I'd like to point out, is Caden Lee and Aiden Williams came in at the same time. Aiden Williams had a ton of hoopla. He made the Under Armour All-American game. He came in, didn't necessarily make big plays, didn't make big plays at all. Had a really bad penalty against Tulane, and his playing time went off a cliff after that. On the flip side of that, Caden Lee kept working. And when he got called on, he produced in a really big way against the number one defense in the entire country. That is the difference. When they give you the opportunity, you make plays. And Craig Tutt, like I said, has all the athletic ability known to man, essentially, and can go a really long way with what he is doing. I'm really excited to see exactly where it goes with Craig Tutt, because he has a chance athletically to be pretty special on the back end of that defense if he develops. There's been a lot of athletes that didn't quite develop. Everybody remembers Tig Barksdale. Everybody remembers Nick Brazel. When they get to Ole Miss, you expect high things. There are expectations, and they just never come about really. Craig Tutt is going to go at least into that category to where there will be expectations whenever he gets on campus. I expect this player to be a very good player immediately for Pete Golding's defense. And it's needed, because if you look at the safety position right now, it's transfer portal all the way at this point, but you want Keon Young, Cortez Thomas, Ladarian Clardy, at least 2 or 3 of those guys. You need to hit on them. With the young guys coming in behind them, you want high school recruiting to be more important than it is. It needs to be more important than the transfer portal, according to all of these people around the country. For that to happen, you need the safety position. You need to hit on those athletes to get ready. If not, you're going to be doing the same thing next year, but it'll be Craig Tutt and Jet Goldsberry and those guys playing back as a safety. So we'll see exactly how that goes and where Ole Miss sits, honestly. This week, all eyes are going to be on NASCAR McCoy and Cortez Redding, two four-star products that are set to announce their commitments. We break down what it could mean for Ole Miss next. Ever wish managing your money felt a little bit easier with Monarch Money? It can. Whether you're growing into your savings or planning on a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. The first thing I noticed after joining Monarch Money was how much money I was wasting eating out and having food delivered via DoorDash and Uber Eats. Take control of your finance with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So it was a really good pickup by Ole Miss to get Craig Tutt, but the question becomes, who is next? And this is a recruiting episode. Most of this episode will be about recruiting in the next couple of weeks, because as fall camp is getting ready to start in about a week and a half, it'll be all football all the time, and recruiting kind of goes to the back burner while the season's going on. So I wanted to point out the next couple of big commitments that Ole Miss fans need to keep their eye on. Not necessarily because the recruit is going to sign here, because Ole Miss is in the game with that recruit, if that makes sense at all. And the first recruit that we look at is NASCAR McCoy. He is a cornerback out of Buford, Georgia. He's somebody that has a chance to be really good. He's 6 foot, 170, 180 pounds. He is a 3-star on Rivals, a 3-star on 247, a 4-star on ESPN. I think he was committed to Georgia or somebody early on. His first name is actually Nasir. He goes by NASCAR because he has excellent ball skills. I mean, when you watch this player play, he does a lot of the stuff that you want him to do. His ball skills are absolutely phenomenal, picking off bubble screens like in the highlight here, or going down the field to kind of take care of things for your teammates. NASCAR McCoy is somebody at corner that you can develop to replace a Jalen Braxton or a Mason Dunn or a Cedric Beavers. The players that Ole Miss brought in to play cornerback, you can see how it fit in that room. Now, B. Brown, he's the co-defensive coordinator. He is a defensive back guy, a Corinth boy, like our mayor of Corinth, Tom Vanderford. B. Brown is really good at teaching defensive backs to go get the football. Whenever you put that with the ball skills that this young quarterback has, and he plays at a high school like Buford, which is kind of a football factory in the state of Georgia, you can see exactly where this potentially could go. And he is not the only name that you should pay attention to this week, although the next name is a little bit more of a long shot than the first one. But you've got Cortez Redding. He's the cornerback, defensive back out of Jonesboro High School in Georgia. He's a 4-star player, 4-star on Rivals, 247 and ESPN. Nobody has him individually ranked in the top 50 or however you want to put it, but if you go to the consensus, he is in there. Cortez Redding is an athletic guy. He's currently favored to go to the University of Miami, I think, but Ole Miss's hat will be on the table with Cortez Redding. The reason I am including Cortez in this conversation is that at one point, Ole Miss got a really good visit bump, and he was talking about them. And, I always talk on recruiting that you don't necessarily start talking about it until the commitment season, just like I said last segment. And the official visit going into a commitment kind of becomes the doorway of who you want to talk about. Whenever Cortez Redding commits, whether it's to Ole Miss or otherwise, at this point, we at least need to acknowledge his name and what's going on, because he did official visit Ole Miss, and he's a really good player. And if Ole Miss lands that, you have him and NASCAR to go with a Craig Tutt. There's major momentum building for two jumbo signees potentially that are committing in August. And we're going to talk about them in the next segment real quick. But I'm really excited to see exactly how recruiting ends up with Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin in the high school ranks would prefer to recruit high school players. In this environment, Ole Miss isn't going all out like they were a year ago whenever they paid for Walter Nolan. They tried to buy their way into the college football playoff last year with some impact players, and dang near it almost worked, honestly. If they didn't make a few mistakes, it would have worked. That's crazy to think of, but it would have worked. Deuce Geralds and Jase Mathews, we'll talk about them in the next segment. Those are the big ones. Those are the ones in August that, honestly, Lane Kiffin needs to land. Those are the narrative changers. Those are the ones that takes Ole Miss class from good to great. Takes Ole Miss's high school class from just a good class to an elite type class. The numbers aren't ever always going to be there. They're just not. But the players that are in this class, it's never going to be a very large class. If you start landing elite players like Jase Mathews and Devin Geralds, it becomes interesting. Like I said, we'll talk about them in the next segment, because right now Ole Miss isn't trending for either one of them because of the uncertainty around college football. It's going to happen one way or another, but being honest with the house settlement in case it sticks is probably better than just saying we'll deal with problems if the house settlement sticks. And that is the thing we're dealing with right now, if that makes sense at all. Anyway, in our final segment, two major recruiting targets are set to come off the board in early August. We will update where things stand. Plus, tragedy struck the Ole Miss community over the weekend. We talk about all of that next. So the two big names that are set to come off the board is Deuce Geralds and Jase Mathews, two players that are important for Ole Miss. Deuce Geralds was the MVP of the Polynesian Bowl. I saw him at the Under Armour All-American game. He is a legacy of Devin Geralds. He was Jevin Snead's center back in the day. A lot of the cards are in play and doing quite well for Devin Geralds to make the move that he needs to make. Period. That's the way it is. Starting with the Georgia game last year, it made such an impression on Devin Geralds that Ole Miss has been, at least in the conversation in the early part of recruiting, he was here every time the door was open to him, whether it was a junior day or something like that. We'll have to pay attention if this year's Juice Fest, he shows up for that, the little cookout or barbecue that they do, if they do that before you get into the season. If he shows up for a game, it doesn't matter who he commits to in August. Does he come to a game? That is the next step. Wherever he commits to, whether it's Ole Miss or otherwise, you pay attention to if he shows up to a game this fall. Ole Miss plays LSU at home. That would be a perfect opportunity. Ole Miss has a really good home schedule. The Florida Gators, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Those games will be important. And this is the important part that everybody needs to realize. The 11 o'clock kickoff that has been the bane of Ole Miss's existence at home for about 365 days isn't an issue in 2025. Players that are on the coast, players that are in South Mississippi can get up to Oxford. They have time. There's going to be multiple night home games set up. And that is a win for the Ole Miss Rebels. So let's talk about Deuce Geralds. Deuce Geralds, he's a 4-star on just about every service. He's number 94 on the consensus. He's 146 according to Rivals, so 172 according to 247. He's the number 40 player in the country if you go by ESPN. He is a really good player. He is somebody that if you talk to the Florida football scout, Brian Smith, he wanted to see if he played 3 technique and they pulled an inside guard, would he be able to stand up? Because pass rushing, this is a pass rusher elite player. This is somebody that when he gets to the next level, no matter where it is going to put up big numbers. Deuce Geralds is going to be a potential star wherever he ends up. Now, at the place where we stand right now, Deuce Geralds is, I guess, crystal balled RPM, whatever the word is for what's going on by Steve Wiltfong to the University of Oregon. That is where we stand at the moment. And honestly, if Deuce Geralds went somewhere other than Ole Miss, it would hurt. It would hurt a lot because he is a good player. He's exactly what they need. Whenever you look at an Isaiah Williams, who is the top linebacker, a very Suntaran Perkins type player that you can use him in a similar way. When you look at Landon Barnes, who is another essentially a Princely Umanmielen type frame of what he can do. If you take a Deuce Geralds and put him in that Jared Ivey position, you have a defensive line that can get after the quarterback. All you have to do is count on William Eccles and Jam Brown and the recruiting, the good recruiting that Lane Kiffin has done in the center of the defense. Deuce Geralds takes Ole Miss to a different area code. He lifts them up that much with what he can do. I always talk about how football is a very, very simple sport. You want interior defensive linemen to take up double teams, so offensive linemen cannot double team your edge rushers. They have almost got that in the middle of their defense. Now, if you get the edge rushers that are extremely special players, put them on the outside, all of that is good stuff. But like I said, he is RPM'd or crystal balled or whatever the terminology is now. Steve Wiltfong crystal balled him to Oregon. So we'll have to see when he commits and if he comes to a game. This isn't over. Even the players that are committed to Ole Miss, this is not over. You pay attention to who comes to games. Not just who's on a list, but who actually comes and does their part as a high school recruit to be interested in where they're going. Otherwise, they're a flip candidate, they're a transfer candidate. Who is all in? That is what we're looking for. And Deuce Geralds right now, not quite all in what's going on with him. Now, the other recruit is Jase Mathews, wide receiver out of Greene County High School in Mississippi. He is somebody that is high, according to Rivals, is number 17 in the entire country, as low as 234 by ESPN. He is ranked 191 by 247. He's a 4-star on every single account. Actually, the Rivals thing, once they start handing out 5 stars, he's going to end up there, if we're being honest. Jase Mathews has been the more likely big-name target to end up in Oxford at wide receiver for a while now. The other one being Tristan Keys. Keys is committed to LSU, but there are a lot of rumors since he signed the Adidas deal, he's going to end up in an Adidas school, which means Miami, Texas A&M. And if Tennessee switches, which it looks like they might, it could be Katie bar the door for Tristan Keys. Jase Mathews has the same level of talent. He is somebody that you look on the football field that is extremely gifted. If Ole Miss landed him with the receiving class that they already have on board, let's just be real about that. The receiving class that they have right now, very, very good. Jase Mathews would take it to the next level. He'd be the Caleb Cunningham on this class. I like Jase Mathews. I think Jase Mathews has a chance to be very, very good. We'll see. But the difference between good and great when it comes to high school recruiting is going to come down to about the next 3 weeks for Lane Kiffin. And we'll talk about it one way or another and see what happens there. Now, to change the subject real quick, a little bit of a sad tale. Corey Adams, a freshman defensive lineman from Edna Carr High School in New Orleans, was reportedly shot and killed in Cordova, Tennessee. That's an outskirt of Memphis. Our deepest sympathies and regrets they go out to his teammates, his coaches, his family, his friends, everybody associated with the Edna Carr family, everybody associated with Ole Miss. It is extremely sad when a player like this happens. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly how the Rebels handle this moving forward. We've heard stories on message boards of other players, especially young players that might have been in the vehicle as well. We don't know what happened to them yet. We're still waiting on further details to come out. It's a sad, sad thing. And you just hate to see that, if we're going to be honest. You're going out having a good time. Somebody pulls a gun and starts shooting. And maybe it's a sign of the times. Maybe it's a sign of society. But that doesn't mean we have to accept it. That doesn't mean we have to think, oh, this just happens. This doesn't mean that we have to do just thoughts and prayers with what's going on. You can be outraged. It's okay about the result. You can be empathetic about the situation. You can be sympathetic to the people involved with what's going on. But you don't just have to accept this as the norm, this extremely sad situation. I don't know exactly how to deal with it. Personally, I'm still kind of processing. But don't just check this off to where that's just where society has gone. We're better than that as a people, period. But I'm sorry that this is happening to the Edna Carr people and the whole Corey Adams family, friends and teammates and coaches and all of them. It has to be a little bit of a gut punch finding out what happened. So it's going to be a weird transition, but remember Corey Adams. Go back, look at his huddle highlights. Remember what he did. He's more than just a football player, but remember that. And get ready for, I guess, a football season that they're going to attack this in a very different way. We'll have to see how it goes, how they will memorialize him. We will see what happens. Anyway, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We are the most comprehensive, perspective-based show on the internet when it comes to Ole Miss, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss sports. And if you don't believe me, Google Ole Miss podcast and watch how many times the Ole Miss Locked On Ole Miss podcast comes up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. Remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.